Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
This is Barbara.
And I'm Lauren. This month we read The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. This book was recommended to us by Sharon on Facebook.
Thank you, Sharon. And so let's talk about the author a little bit first. So Sue Monk Kidd was raised in a small town of Sylvester, Georgia. She graduated from Texas Christian University in 1970 and later took creative writing courses at Emory University, as well as studying at Sewanee, Breadloaf, and other writers' conferences. In her 40s, Kidd turned her attention to writing fiction, winning the South Carolina Fellowship in Literature and the 1996 Poets and Writers Exchange Program in Fiction. When her first novel, The Secret Life of Bees, was published by Viking in 2002, it became a genuine literary phenomenon, spending more than 2.5 years on the New York Times bestsellers list. That's 2.5 years. That's crazy. It seems like a really long time. It has been translated into 36 languages and sold more than 6 million copies in the US and 8 million copies worldwide. Bees was named the BookSense Paperback Book of the Year in 2004, long listed for the 2002 Orange Prize in England, and won numerous other awards. The novel was adapted into an award-winning movie as well as an off-Broadway musical. Kidd now lives in North Carolina with her husband. And Barbara, you want to tell us a little bit about the specs of the book, so to speak?
Yeah, so it was originally published on January 28th of 2003. These genres are considered historical fiction and fiction. Depending on the copy, it could be 302 pages, and it currently has a 4.07 on Goodreads, 4.4 on Barnes & Noble's, 4.7 on Amazon, and a 4.6 on Audible, which is pretty consistent all around, except for maybe on Goodreads, I guess. It has been nominated for the Orange Prize for Fiction Longlist in 2002, the Lincoln Award in 2005, the Missouri Gateway Readers Award in 2005, the Lovely Books Lesser Praise for Algemeen Literature in 2009, and it actually won the BookSense Book of the Year Award for paperback in 2004. So like anything else, we think it's important for readers to know what, if any, representation is in the books we read. So for this book, there are POC characters, but no LGBTQ plus characters and no persons with disabilities.
All right. Lauren, you want to give us your back of the book synopsis?
Sure. So this book was basically, I really enjoyed it, but it was set in South Carolina in 1964. And it follows the story of Lily Owens, who's our main character and our voice of the novel. And her life has been shaped around the memory of the afternoon that her mom was killed, which seems to be something that is a theme throughout the book. When her stand-in mother, Rosaleen, who was a housekeeper, I believe, in their home, she insults 3 of the deepest racists in town. Lily decides to spring them both free. They escape to Tiburon, South Carolina, a town that holds the secret to her mother's past. Taken in by an eccentric trio of Black beekeeping sisters, Lily is introduced to their mesmerizing world of bees and honey and the Black Madonna. This is a remarkable novel about divine female power, a story women will share and pass on to their daughters for years to come.
All right. So what did you think about The Secret Life of Bees? And remember, no spoilers.
So I really like this book. The pacing was fine for me. I didn't have any issues with the pacing. The characters were really great. I loved the characters. I liked the character arc that Lily went through. I thought that was really important for her. And I learned about bees. Didn't think that was going to be a thing, but I definitely learned about bees. Had no idea. I thought the plot was really engaging. Overall, I really enjoyed reading this book.
So, it wasn't my favorite book of all time, but I did really enjoy it. I thought the characters were very interesting. The setting was also the setting, the time frame, all of that was very. I loved the historical fiction aspects of it, and I really enjoyed the overall story. It's kind of a combination of historical fiction, maybe tossing in a little bit of a coming of age tale for our main character Lily. I really liked it.
I loved this book. The point of view was interesting, coming from Lily, who is white and young, and kind of her looking at the world through her point of view, I thought was really well written. The characters were well developed. I think pretty much all the characters had some type of arc, and I really just enjoyed the plot. I didn't have a pacing issue with it at all. I really enjoyed it. The Audible version, for those who want to listen to it, was really good. The voices were really well done, and it was very engaging. So I just enjoyed it a lot.
Was it different people like narrating different people like characters, or is it
No,
one person doing different voices?
so it was one person, but she was doing different voices. Like she had different voices for each character, and she just did a really good job. I feel like one of the other novels that we reviewed, there was like a full cast for the Audible thing, which is
I remember
really
you
neat.
saying that. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah, this one didn't
next
do
book
that.
we're reading, I've been listening to, and it's a full cast of
Oh,
characters.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you listening to it on Audible?
No.
Okay. Neat. No, but this one was just one narrator, but it was really well done.
So, like always, we're not going to go into our individual ratings at this point. You have to wait to the end for that. But our group score for this book was a 7.7 out of 10. And going from there, would you recommend this book? And yeah, I would, to anybody. I cannot think of anybody I would not recommend this book to, or anyone that would not benefit from reading this story. I think that it's not only a very good story, but it's a very important story to read. So yeah, I definitely would recommend it.
I agree. I think that this kind of supersedes genres. I don't think that necessarily anybody who likes a certain genre wouldn't. So like my genres and you guys' genre like favorites, I just feel like don't really matter when it comes to this book. Like it's just, it kind of appeals to everybody, but also is an important story. Like Michael said, like I feel like it is a valuable read regardless of what you typically gravitate towards.
Yeah, I would agree with both of what you guys said. I would recommend it to anyone. I think it's a book that hits a lot of notes for me, and I think it would hit a lot of different notes for everyone else. Like Lauren kind of mentioned, it's kind of transcends like genres as far as like if you only like a particular genre, I think you would still enjoy this book. If you have a human heart, I don't know, some people might not have a human heart, not enjoy it, but that is what it is. I also think it's just a great coming of age book, and I think it's relatable regardless of anything. And it's just a great coming of age book. So
from Barbara's perspective, those of you out there that have either a pig valve, a bovine valve, or some other maybe robotic chamber of your heart, you should not read this book.
No, not should. You might not enjoy it as much.
Because you don't have a full human heart, and apparently that's a
correct
qualifying factor.
Okay. Or if you just have a cold, unalive heart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's usually Barbara, though, and she enjoyed it, so.
That's fair.
All right. So for those of you leaving us at this point, don't forget to give us a rating if you like us. That's super important if the podcast app you listen to gives you the opportunity to do that. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram. In both places, our handle is @BadassLitPod. Speaking of Facebook and Instagram, we want to hear from you guys. If you've got a book you want us to read, please let us know. And now Lauren is going to give us a short preview of what we've got coming up next.
Yes, next month we are taking a break, but we will have a bonus type episode. We'll be back in May when we will be reading The Final Empire, which is the first Mistborn novel by Brandon Sanderson, which was recommended to us by a user on Reddit. Random user on Reddit. Thanks. Here's the preview.
Lauren's so excited. Thanks, Reddit user.
Right. I can't even direct my anger at anyone in particular, just a random Reddit user. Here's the preview. For 1,000 years, the ash fell and no flowers bloomed. For 1,000 years, the Ska slaved in misery and lived in fear. For 1,000 years, the Lord Ruler, the sliver of infinity, reigned with absolute power and ultimate terror, divinely invincible. Then, when hope was so long lost that not even its memory remained, a terribly scarred, heartbroken half-Ska rediscovered it in the depths of the Lord Ruler's most hellish prison. Kelsier, is that right? Snapped and found in himself the powers of a Mistborn. A brilliant thief and natural leader, he turned his talents to the ultimate caper, with the Lord Ruler himself as the mark. Kelsier recruited the underworld's elite, the smartest and most trustworthy allomancers, each of whom shares one of his many powers, all of whom relish a high-stakes challenge. Then Kelsier reveals his ultimate dream, not just the greatest heist in history, but the downfall of the divine
Despot.
Despot.
Oh, I literally would have pronounced it the way you did. Like Depot?
But even with the best criminal crew ever assembled, Kel's plan looks more like the ultimate long shot, until luck brings a ragged girl named Vin into his life. Like him, she's a half-Scot orphan, but she's lived a much harsher life. Vin has learned to expect betrayal from everyone she meets. She will have to learn trust if Kel is to help her master powers of which she never dreamed. Brandon Sanderson, fantasy's newest master tale spinner and author of the acclaimed debut Elantris, which I actually liked, dares to turn a genre on its head by asking a simple question: what if the prophesied hero failed to defeat the Dark Lord? The answer will be found in the Mistborn trilogy, a saga of surprises that begins with the book in your hands. Fantasy will never be the same again.
Bum, bum, bum. No, Lauren, I think you'll like this one too, actually. It's I'm really enjoying it so far.
It's just very daunting.
Have you
On
started it yet?
Audible, I have, but I'm not very far in. And on Audible, it's not a full cast, which I'm a little bit salty about. So I don't know where you're listening to it, but it's not on Audible. And then also, it's just like a 25-hour listen, which is just very intimidating for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is no out there, I guess, that's interested in the audiobook, the alternate, there's a company called Graphic Audio that has done most of Brandon Sanderson's books. And Graphic Audio is known for doing full cast recording of the book. So, which is a pretty daunting task for a fantasy novel that has like tons of characters, and every single character is voiced by a different actor or actress. It's cool.
Or they get people who are good at doing multiple voices.
No, there's like a 15-minute segment at the beginning where they
really?
list off the entire cast. It's a huge ensemble.
What app are you listening to that on?
You have to just get it directly from the Graphic Audio website.
Oh, okay.
It's the only place I know of to get it. So anyway, remember the second part of this episode is an in-depth look at The Secret Life of Bees. So if you do want to read that, please stop listening now and come back and listen to the rest of this episode when you're done.
Hey guys, my name's Abby and I co-host the Book Life podcast with my best friend Mo. We cover fantasy, sci-fi, and historical fiction books and talk book-related topics like our favorite character types, world building, and books versus their movies. New episodes drop every Monday on your favorite platform. Now, back to your show.
Now, for those of you sticking around for the spoilers, here we go. Like always, we're going to start off with the Badass Character Award. Barbara, who was your nominee for the Badass Character Award this time?
So my Badass Character Award goes to August. I think she has that inner strength and she just exudes like this toughness and gentleness all at the same time. I just really love that combo, and I really liked her character. So that's who mine went to.
I think August is a good pick. I ended up picking Lily for the Badass Character Award. I think that, for being just a little girl, she endured quite a bit in her short life, and the way that she was able to overcome it, and also just the personal growth that she had. It was very inspiring. I really liked Lily as a character, so she got the Badass Character Award for me.
I also chose Lily. I think that she just she's very resilient. She, throughout the novel, shows like her levels of perseverance. She's been through some shit, continues to, kind of press on and wants to learn about herself and her history. So I give it to her.
So I like to add more into mine. The fact that this took place at this time where not only women weren't allowed to do a lot of stuff, but like African American women, August had her own business, a thriving business, mind you. I just thought that was really cool because back then you didn't see that
True.
At all. So I just thought that was really...
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think August was a close second for me for the award. So Lily was the winner of the Badass Character Award for this novel. Moving on from there, let's talk a little bit about some of the major characters. I'm going to start with Lily, who's our main character, as well as the voice of the book, as I think Lauren mentioned in the opening. Lily was a really interesting character. It was not necessarily a happy story for her. Well, part of her story is happy, but there's a lot of her story and a lot of her life that's not so happy. And she lives a pretty rough life at the beginning. She's living with her dad because her mom has died. I think at the very beginning of the book, we don't know what happened, right?
No, we do.
Is that right away at the beginning that you
Yeah,
find out about
it's
the
like the
shooting?
second chapter or something like that. She mentions that she has that core memory where she's playing in the closet, her mom's like fumbling around with clothes and like dropping it in a suitcase or something, and then her mom or her dad comes home and her mom's like crap and trying to get it together, and then she has this distinct memory of like the gun being dropped on the floor, and then that's kind of where it gets fuzzy.
Yeah.
And then
We
there's
don't
literally
know that she did it.
well, no, but there's that line that I thought was really interesting that she says. She's like, all I know is that like I loved my mom, or I loved something so much, and I was the one that took her away, or something like that. It was like I don't have the book with me, but it was a line to something to that. And so it kind of makes you assume that she was the one who picked up the gun and accidentally shot her mom.
Which that's a fact, unfortunately, that's confirmed later in the book.
Right. Her dad never confirmed it or never told her about it or anything like that. She just kind of had an inkling of it, but I think she kind of just stayed away from it and didn't really like to think about. But she kind of, because of that line, makes me think that she knew.
Yeah. And I think in some ways that was like one of the only kind things that her dad did for her after that happened is not...
We'll discuss that later, Michael. Yeah. You're getting off.
Anyway, Lily's a very interesting character. She lives this life where she's with her dad, and he's not a very nice man. And it's just her and Rosaleen, who's their housekeeper / nanny. And as Lauren mentioned in the description of the book, this takes place around the time where African Americans were just given the right to vote. And so Rosaleen is very excited about going and registering to vote. And she takes Lily with her, correct?
But yes, she asked to go because it was her birthday. It was the 4th of July, and it was her birthday, and she didn't want to be stuck in the house because T. Ray never buys her any gifts besides like socks and underwear or something like that. And she wanted to do something fun for her birthday.
That was really sad. She always fantasized about him getting her like a piece of jewelry or something. So anyway, she and Rosaleen take off to go and register Rosaleen to vote, and on the way they get hassled by the 3 biggest racists in town, apparently. And instead of, trying to get out of the situation and get going, Rosaleen, who's a tobacco chewer, spits tobacco on their shoes.
No, she took her little jar and
that's
literally
right,
her spit jar. I don't know what that's called. I call it a spit jar. I don't know. Fine. Isn't there a technical term?
Spittoon.
I'm pretty sure they just called it her spit jar too.
Yeah, so she takes her little spit jar jug thing and literally just like pours it on their shoes, which I thought was hilarious. But they obviously did not find that as funny.
So anyway, that happens. Things hit the fan, and they end up getting arrested. And then Lily ends up breaking Rosaleen out of jail. Kind of fast forwarding here. We'll talk about some more of this later in detail. And that's how they end up at the beekeeping farm, where Lily's story takes a much more positive turn, and this is where the coming of age story comes in. I loved the depth of Lily's character as the book continued. She given an opportunity to kind of open up as a person, figure out who she really is, and it was an opportunity I feel like she never really got in her home life because of effectively the constant stress she was under because of how her dad was behaving and his erratic behavior, and her never really knowing if he was going to be not even really nice. I don't think he was ever nice, but if he was going to be, not abusive or even there. Anyway, somebody else can jump in if they'd like to add something about Lily.
So I liked Lily's point of view because she started off, so she's a bit different. She's not like T. Ray. Well, I mean, I guess we don't really know if T. Ray's racist or anything like that. Like, obviously he's tolerable, but Lily never considered herself a racist or anything like that. But she did have inner prejudice that you could hear from her inner monologues that she shed. Like, when they get to the sisters' beekeeping home and stuff like that, she's always saying like how embarrassed she is of Rosaleen because she's not, like sophisticated and all this other stuff. And then she was actually shocked when she met August and June and May that they were smart. And she was like, oh, I never thought African Americans could be smart. She even said like, I always thought just white people could be smart and go to school and all this stuff. And then like her eye and her world just gets opened up. And like I said, her inner biases that she didn't even realize that she had kind of gets, turned around. And she's like, oh, that was, I didn't even realize that's how I was thinking. And she kind of goes through this little like metamorphosis of realizing how her thinking was different, and she met these women who proved her wrong, and I really enjoyed that, to see that through her eyes and see that change in her. as well
Yeah.
as the change of loving herself, because I feel like she also hated herself for everything that happened with her mom. That's a little bit of Lily, I guess.
Yeah. I also really appreciated the scenes where she would get glimpses into like, oh, I am biased. Like, and even just acknowledging it with her inner monologue, like realizing that what was kind of ingrained in her was not accurate was really neat to see. And then just kind of her navigating her situation with T-Ray and trying to figure out what's going on with her mom. And then after, obviously, she figures out what happened later on, her navigating kind of the feelings that are associated with not being what she thought it was, I guess. We're in the spoiler section, so realizing that, her mom abandoned her rather than just left, that she was trying to get away from her and T-Ray, and that she didn't take her with her, and then just kind of navigating all of that.
We'll obviously get a lot deeper into some specifics of Lily later, but this is kind of just an overview of the characters. Next one I wanted to talk about was Rosaleen, which is Lily's, Lauren called her, stand-in mother, the housekeeper. I wanted to touch on one thing I just thought about that Barbara mentioned. I don't think T-Ray was a racist. They didn't, at least I think he was prejudiced, like probably most people were at that time, even Lily. But it was implied that like just because of the comments he made about the men,
true.
Rosaleen,
so that's what I'm saying. I didn't think he was a racist. It's just he probably thought what back then was standard for grown-ups to think around that time. Like he didn't mind, like he wasn't racist, like you said, but like he wasn't going out of his way to be nice to them. Correct. Either.
Yeah, he didn't hate other. I don't think he hated them, but yeah. Anyway, Rosaleen is an awesome character. I really enjoyed her character. I loved her attitude. She like that scene where she poured the the spit jar.
Yeah, she has a no nonsense attitude.
She doesn't take crap from anybody, and I think that her attitude and the way that she is had a big impact on Lily too. I think that probably why she was brave enough to run away from her dad was because of Rosaleen and her badassery.
I think Rosaleen is there for Lily in the sense that I think without Rosaleen's character, Lily would be a completely different person, because that was the only person that in her pivotal ages of growing up as a child, that's the only place she was seeking that love and actually getting it. Because obviously she still wanted T-Ray's love and approval and affection and all this stuff. She wasn't getting it from him. And luckily she had Rosaleen, because I feel like it would be a very different story had she not had that mother figure that she so desperately wanted and then found also in the other sisters. But I really enjoyed Rosaleen. I liked her character. I pictured her originally a bit older, and then I remembered that I had seen the movie and that her character is much younger. It's Jennifer Hudson, I believe is her name, that plays her, right? Is that the actress's name? Actress, singer, amazing, talented.
Yes,
woman.
that is the she. I don't know if she plays that role in the
she
movie.
plays Rosaleen. She does, and that's why I was like, I didn't.
Her older.
See, I pictured her older, but in the movie, she's much younger. I think a lot younger. So I kind of originally pictured her a lot older, and I'm not sure why. I just did. So I'm not really sure what her age is and all that, but I enjoyed her character. I liked how she was, and I feel like I think Lily didn't give her a lot of credit in the beginning, and then she started realizing what she actually meant to her. And I really enjoyed their relationship, how it progressed from one to another, where I feel like Lily maybe not took advantage of her, but like, what is the word I'm looking for?
Took her for granted.
Thank you. Took her for granted, and then realized all the things that she had done for her. And I thought that was really beautiful. So
upon reflection, I feel like Rosaleen should have maybe been the badass character.
She definitely would have been. I think most of the characters, though, in this book, with the exception of T-Ray, would have been a contender. Well, no, Zach could have been a contender.
Yeah.
But I think most of the characters in this book could have been a contender for the badass character.
Correct.
On some level.
Correct.
I was just looking at IMDb, though, Barbara, and it looks like they may have de-aged a lot of the characters, because August was played by Queen Latifah, and she's not.
Oh my God, I love Queen Latifah. I have such a weird obsession with Queen Latifah. I love her. Anyways, we'll get into that later when we talk about August. I love Queen Latifah.
Well, that's actually what we're going to talk about right now is the sisters. So we have
your sister really hasn't talked to about Elizabeth.
Oh, Lauren, did you have anything to add about Rosaleen?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's fine. No, I was just going to say that, kind of like what you guys said, that Rosaleen being that stand-in mother figure, and also just consistently being a role model for Lily to have her step out of her comfort zone and different things. I think was very important. And I also pictured her older. I still have not seen the movie because I vowed that I would not watch it until I had read the book. And now I have finally read the book, so now I will watch the movie. But I feel like Rosaleen was a consistent source of love, and for Lily, that's super important. Like, she's still seeking love from T. Ray at the end of the novel. Sad. So at least she had one solid person that was always kind of there for her.
So from there, let's talk about the sisters. We had August, June, and May. They were the three beekeeping sisters. And the first question I'm going to ask you guys, I want to know who your favorite sister was.
I really liked August, and well, I liked all of them for different reasons, but I really, really liked August, and I really, really liked May. And June, I mean, I understand why she was the way she was, but you get it from Lily's point of view. So in the beginning, you kind of gravitates to be like, why is she being so mean to this little white girl, you know? But it's like, I understand why she was. So, but I liked all of them. It's really hard to pick, but I think maybe August for me would be a little bit on the because Queen Latifah, yes, that's who I pictured as soon. I was like, yes, Queen Latifah is August, and I just really like I said, like she is this groundbreaking woman who wasn't married in a time where that's all women were seen to be good for, was to get married and have children and take care of their husband and their children. She was not only a woman, but a African American woman who had her own business, like I mentioned, and a thriving business, not even just this was a thriving business who helped the community, who did a bunch of stuff. And I just think that's amazing. And like I said, this is another one of those strong female woman characters that you see that I love, that doesn't have to wield a sword and be on horseback to be a strong woman character. It's just how she is, how she handles situations, how she's loving and tough and abled and all this other stuff. So that's mine. That was mine.
So my favorite sister was also August, but then with a close second being May. I also just didn't gravitate towards June much. And I think that is, like Barbara said, like just because the perspective that we get. I really liked May's character too, though.
R.I.P. May.
R.I.P.
I know. My favorite was also August. I just really liked her character. And then even more so, I think, so I forgot to mention, so when Lily arrives at the sisters' beekeeping farm, she is pretending to be somebody else. And you find out later that August pretty much knew the whole time that
all of them did.
who Lily actually was. And that made me love August even more because she recognized that Lily needed some time before she was ready to talk about stuff. And she respected her even though she was a little girl and gave her that time, which I thought was really cool.
Right. She doesn't treat her like a little girl. She treats her like a mature adult who is complicated in all these things. And she gives her that time to be like, oh, okay, here's, another reason to love August.
True. So next question about the sisters. Do we all need a wailing wall like May had? And whoever answers this first should probably explain what the wailing wall is.
So, I mean, I think that the wailing wall could be symbolic for a place to go and kind of air your stress, your sadness, your frustrations, things like that. Do I think that everybody needs a physical wall where they go and cry? No. Do I think the symbolism there of going somewhere and having something consistent to go and get out your kind of inner demons, so to speak, like maybe therapy, that would be good. I feel like everyone could use a therapist.
That's everyone's wailing wall is therapy.
Yeah, everyone needs a therapist. Or just like a really close friend that you can, go to and vent to, or understanding yourself enough to, have somewhere in your house that you go. And some people, if you're religious, like they have prayer rooms, or some people have meditation rooms that, they're not religious, or they, just different places where you can go and kind of find peace and let out all of your frustrations and things. I think that is important. Yes.
What I was going to say on this one is that I, like Lauren said, I don't think we all need like a physical wall to cry to, but I kind of saw the wailing wall as a symbol and I think everybody needs, something where they can either someone to air their grievances to, or maybe just something in their life that they do that gives them peace, that lets them find their peace. I think that could be similar.
I've got a question. Did you read May as autistic? Because that's kind of how I read her character as.
Not necessarily autistic, but I definitely read her as having some mental health struggle.
Okay. I wasn't sure exactly what, because I mean, back then that wouldn't have been a diagnosis. I don't think that was even a consideration back then. It was just, I mean, a lot of things were considered back then. God forbid you had PTSD and depression and anxiety. Back then it was just like, rub some dirt on it and you'll be fine. So, but yeah, she kind of like read, to me at least, a little like that.
Yeah, she definitely had some emotional disturbance and probably some PTSD. She had some mental health stuff.
I read it as mental health something. I don't know exactly what it was. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, at least for now, in regards to the sisters, was why do you think that June was cold, or why did you think June was cold toward Lily? Because to be honest, at the beginning, I didn't really know, because it's not explicitly clear why she feels that way. And it's almost like I guess my initial thoughts were like, maybe she just doesn't like having new people around. Like she just prefers their setting with just the people she's familiar with and comfortable with, and didn't really like the idea of this new little white girl and her black housekeeper hanging out on their property. I guess that's the only thing I could initially think of. I'm curious what you guys had for your initial thoughts.
I don't think she had a problem with Rosaleen. I really do think it's Lily, and because she's white. Because if you think about the time period, they could get in trouble for this. Having some white girl at your house without a mom or a dad or any reasoning behind it. I mean, hell, whenever we get that scene with the cop, he's like, "Oh, you're living here with, these folks," is what he said, or something like that. And he's like, "Next time I see you, I better not see you because you better be not with them," type thing. So I think it's more of that. Like, she doesn't want to add any more strife to their family. I think she's very protective of her family. And I think she kind of just went a little mama bear in that sense, where it's like, who is this white girl and why is she here? She's posing a threat to us in a society where it's things were starting to bubble over. I feel like maybe not necessarily in their town, even though we do get a scene where that happens. That's why I just thought that she didn't want her there because it would cause them more issues if people were to ask around.
I thought she was just kind of a cranky old bee for a while until we kind of get more of her story. I didn't really gravitate towards her character much. I was like, why are you so cranky?
It's true. She did kind of seem cranky. And the last character I want to touch on here before we dive into our discussion questions is T-Ray, Lily's dad.
Asshole.
Yeah, pretty much. That's really the only vibe I got from him. I guess in some ways I liked his character the way he was written, because like I hated him so much. Like,
you love to hate him,
right? Because
makes him a good, well-written character, right?
To make me feel things like that, they've got to be a well-written character. So he was definitely a well-written character for this story, but he was definitely an a-hole, like Barbara said.
Yeah, there's no, when you get in your fantasy books, there's that evil mustached, twirling evil man. Like, that's not who he is. This is a very common person that you might meet in normal time, daily living. You might meet someone who you might not agree with the way they are raising their children, or how they are raising people in general, or how he acts towards people. And that makes him even more of a hateful character, because of that. And so she did a hell of a job writing someone that we love to hate, and especially because we get, once again, Lily's perspective. We don't get any outside perspective of him. We get a little bit of his story, but I don't think that's enough to be redeemable. And once again, like you said, we will talk about that later. So that's all I have to say about good old T-Ray.
Good old T-Ray.
Yeah, I hated him. He was just like, I don't know. And you get a little bit more of his story, you're right, but not enough, I don't think, to redeem his shittiness, and just how he treats Lily and how he treats Rosaleen and just how he treats people in general. I just really did not like him. And he had lots of opportunities to be better. Like, I feel like there were certain times throughout the book where, like, they set him up to be better. Like, to tell Lily he loves her, or to, be a better human. And he just failed every time. So,
pretty much, yeah. All right, so moving on from our little character discussion to our first discussion question. The first one is, do you think race was portrayed realistically in The Secret Life of Bees? And what do you think Sue Monk Kidd was saying about race in this novel? And yeah, I think it was portrayed realistically. In fact, it's one of the reasons that I highly recommend this book for anybody. Is I think it's really important for us to look at our country's past through a realistic lens, even if it makes us uncomfortable, especially if it makes us uncomfortable. And it was really cool to see Lily shed her taught biases, like you guys both said earlier, as the story progressed. And I don't think that, Lily wasn't like a racist character at the beginning of the book, but because of, the times and the way that she was raised and the people she was raised by, she had those, taught biases that were inherently in her. And it was really, really cool to see those kind of like, and see that all fall away and her lose all of that as the story progressed, as she spent more time with the sisters and Zach.
Yes. Unfortunately, I think that it was portrayed realistically. It's difficult to read certain parts of the book knowing that that is the history that we have in our country of treating human beings that way, especially when they were, the scene where they basically just abused and attacked Rosaleen for what she did, and the fact that there was a cop there, like, watching it happen and just like, okay, that's enough, after she's like been freaking beaten and bruised and bloodied.
And sent to the hospital.
Literally. Right. And the cop's just like standing there letting them do their thing until, finally he's like, okay, don't kill her, like that sort of thing. But it's just like the fact that that actually was something that was commonplace makes me sick, honestly. And so I think that, like you said, Michael, it makes us uncomfortable when we read things like that, because it's like just so far-fetched from like anything that I can imagine doing to a human being. Like, no matter what, really, even if they're like a freaking murderer, like you just don't, I don't know. So anyway, I think it was portrayed realistically, and I think that is unfortunate.
Yep. I also think for the time period, it was portrayed realistically. And I think what she was trying to say is that we have a lot of these inner biases that we can learn from. You are a product of your environment, but that doesn't mean you always have to be that way. You can learn from that, just because you grew up one way doesn't mean you can't learn about it and be a better person. And I think that's what we get here. Lily thought one way in the beginning, and at the end you can see that it was completely changed for her. She realized all her inner biases that she grew up with, especially towards, like I mentioned, the African Americans, like thinking she was smarter than them just because of the skin tone. And like we said, we would never consider her a racist character at all, but she still felt like she was still better than them when, growing up. And then she saw that, like, hey, look at these strong women characters. Look at all this beautiful, what were they called? The Mary was the Black Madonna, but like this inner circle of women that she kind of got put into, that, she saw that they all have their strengths and weaknesses, and
they called it a
sisterhood. Yeah, it's the church that they belong, but the word I was looking for is like the sisterhood, and I think she learned a lot because of that.
All right, so moving on from there, Lily's relationship to her dead mother in the book was very complex, ranging from guilt to idealization to hatred to acceptance. What happens to a daughter when she discovers her mother once abandoned her? Is Lily right? Would people generally rather die than forgive? And was it harder for Lily to forgive her mother or to forgive herself?
This plot point itself was very intriguing to me. I kept waiting for them to twist it to where T-Ray was the one who pulled the trigger and had the gun, but then I was hoping that they didn't, because I knew that would tie it up too neatly and kind of totally change the story. But I really was waiting for them to kind of reveal, like, it actually wasn't you. It was T-Ray telling you that you did this horrible thing. I think that Lily had an immense amount of trauma from her past, dealing with T-Ray, dealing with her mom, that I think that she kind of, since her mom, we find out, did abandon her and she wasn't really wanted. I think that there was probably quite a bit of issues there too, like with her seeking affirmation and seeking love and affection from a parent that, wasn't able to give it to her. And then just the shame and guilt. She never properly grieved the loss of her mother. And even once she began hating her, she still never grieved her, really, which is what I feel like she would ultimately need to do to move forward. I do think that she had a harder time forgiving herself than her mother. And I think that even after she learned the truth about her mom, I think that she still didn't really forgive herself for what happened. But that's just my take.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a pretty thought to have, I'm sure, that your mother abandoned you. Learning at one point your mom abandoned you after she idolized her for so long, and she had this, I don't know, this image of her mom and who she was, to kind of that just kind of blew up, and she was like, oh nope, not really. So let's see here. I'm not sure about the whole dying part. Can't speak to that, but I do think it's hard for people to forgive. And I do think it's one of the harder things to do for people, is just to forgive people that hurt you or things that happen to you. That's why a lot of people go to, counseling for that, is to learn how to forgive yourself and forgive others. And I do think it was harder for her to forgive herself more so than her mom, just because she had to learn that her mom could be all of those things that she had imagined, both the great and terrible things that she learned. And that didn't make her relationship with her mom any different. I feel like she went from idolizing her mom to thinking she was this beautiful woman who would never leave her, who would never abandon her. And the only reason why she did leave her was because of Lily accidentally killed her, versus learning that her mom technically did abandon her for a little bit and left her with T-Ray, this awful human. And she's like, how could you do this to me? Lily learned that people are flawed, and it took her a while to grieve that and learn that and be okay with that. And for her to also feel okay with herself with that, knowing that that's part of her history, and thinking she took her mom away and hating herself for it this whole time, growing up with that thought in her head, even though she didn't believe it. I think she deep down, she knew, and that's why she kind of was the way she was, and learning to grow with that. It's quite like Lauren said, it's a very interesting plot point for her characterization.
So their relationship was super complex. I think, she experiences some very complicated emotions when she learns that she abandoned her. And I think that the reasons that she left are tough for a girl her age to understand. I think as she grows up that she'll see why she had to leave, and hopefully take some solace in the fact that she always meant to come back and get her. Like, that was the plan. And I think that at her age, it's impossible for her to see that and understand it. And it's definitely something that will take some time for her to process. But I think that may come with age. It's definitely hard for people to forgive. And I think for some people it is easier to die. There's definitely some people who just are not able to forgive. And so I think it is always harder to forgive yourself than others. So I think that she is going to have a rougher time forgiving herself, like you guys both said. Learning that her mom left didn't inherently change their relationship, though, or all the good things and all the good memories that she has about her mom. And like I said, I think as she grows up, she'll see all of that in a little bit different light. So moving on from there, what do the bees mean to the story, and what is the secret life of bees?
I felt like that the bees had a lot of symbolism throughout the story. I think that the pink house is representative of kind of a beehive in itself, with all of the members. Each character kind of represented the different worker bees, caretaker bees, Lily and Zach, and the ones that were really in charge of taking care of the bees themselves. Like, they were more of the worker bees. August, June, they were more of the caretakers. The queen bee could kind of be thought to be, or at least I thought, like the Black Mary, kind of what they all kind of center themselves around. I kind of thought that the theme of bees throughout the story, and then becoming kind of Lily got to become like part of the hive, and, joining into something that is that's bigger than herself, is kind of where I took that with the bees.
So I didn't really have that great of a connection to the bees as far as like Lauren did, and I really, really loved her answer. So I kind of want to go piggyback of that, because I didn't really think much of it, to be honest. I couldn't really think of anything. But when she mentioned the Black Mary being the queen bee, I had this scene that popped in my head as soon as you said that, which that makes complete sense to me, because August tells Lily that the Black Mary is a mother to all, like she mothered everyone. And there's that scene with Lily when she was kind of afraid to go and touch the Black Mary in the heart, and then she finally does, and I think she says like, "You're my mother, you're a mother to me," and all, like she was feeling that when she didn't grow up with a mother and really needed to. So I really like that, and that's when you said that, that's the scene that literally popped up in my head. So I really like that, and that's all I have to say to that. I think Lauren said it beautifully. I have nothing to add to that.
I also have nothing to add there. I didn't really know how to answer this, and when I saw Lauren's answer, I don't think I could have said it any better. So
he almost would have stolen it had he gone first, Lauren. So
false.
Yes.
Unlike him, I wanted to give you all the credit for this one. Unlike him, where he's just like, "Oh, actually,
stealing that."
False.
Steelers.
False. So moving on, did your opinion of T-Ray change when August told Lily about how much he used to love her mother and how he used to be? Does Deborah's abandonment explain or excuse T-Ray?
So I'm not sure if my opinion changed per se about him. I don't think it doesn't really matter how much he loved the mom, her, Deborah, whatever. I don't think that excuses the way he treated Lily. I don't think any amount of what happened to you in the past gives you the right to treat anyone a certain way. So with that, I think it does explain him and why he was doing that a lot better, but I don't think it excuses him for any of his actions. It does make more sense since he's clearly blaming Lily for looking like the mom. He's clearly taking it out on her, because I think like he's like, "How dare you? You're the one who killed her." And essentially Lily was the one who took the mom took Deborah away from him. And obviously we get that scene and he still hasn't come to terms with that. So even though the mom, Deborah, was leaving him regardless of what would have happened next, I don't think he came to terms with the fact that like, hey, she was leaving you. It doesn't matter that she died before she got the chance to. Like she was in the process, I'm pretty sure, of divorcing his ass. And I feel like he had that disconnect where he was just pretending, like in his head, like if she had not died, we would have been this happy family, which obviously would not have been the case. And I feel like he put all the blame on Lily for a lot of things. Looking like her, obviously acting like her. She has probably that what is the word, that inner strength that the mom had, because like it wasn't back then, it wasn't easy to leave a husband. Like you didn't work, you couldn't work, you couldn't do a lot of stuff without a man. And so that took a lot of inner strength for the mom, for Deborah, to be like, hey, like I can't do this anymore, I'm leaving, I'm taking Lily with me. So I just feel like he put a lot of blame on her and never came to terms with the fact that his wife was leaving him, regardless if she died at that moment or not.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. And pretty much just like you said, so not really, it didn't change my opinion of him at all. It was nice, I guess, to know, just for the sake of his character, that he wasn't always like this and always the way that he is now, but it wasn't enough to redeem the man and father he eventually became. That's still inexcusable. And so I don't think it does. It does explain, I guess, a little bit to what the question says, but it doesn't excuse his behavior.
Yeah, I just literally put that I still hated him. I don't think that there is an excuse. I think Barbara said it really well, saying that no matter what's happened to you in the past, it doesn't give you a right to treat people the way that he did. And like you said, Michael, I think that it's nice to know that he wasn't always that way, but it doesn't really excuse his behavior. So I agree.
All right. So what was your reaction to Lily's relationship with Zach? What do you think happened to them in the future? And before I answer this, I want to quickly explain who Zach was. So Zach was a young African-American boy who worked, or teenager, I guess, right? Who worked.
He was 17, I believe. 16, 17. Yeah, okay. He was his junior year in high school, I believe.
And he had a part-time job working with the beekeepers. He was like an assistant beekeeper. And that's where he fits into the story. But I really liked her relationship with Zach, Lily and Zach's relationship. It broke my heart, though, that it couldn't be real due to racism in America at the time. It wouldn't have been safe for them to really be together, and that made me really sad. But I thought they were cute together. I thought that the moments that we did get were very nice in the book, and I hope that when they got older, they moved up north and actually got to be together in a place where it was at least a little bit safer at the time for them to do that. But obviously we don't know. We don't know what happened, but that's my hope.
So I agree. I agreed with both of you guys on this one. I enjoyed their relationship. I was sad that it couldn't be, continued or real, just because of the way that things were during that time. I do hope that eventually they ended up together later on. But obviously there's no sequel to this, so we shall never know.
Yeah, obviously, I think we all are in accordance with here. I really enjoyed their relationship. I do think it's sad to think that this actually happened, and it wasn't so long ago either. It's not like it was over 100 years ago. This is very recent still. So that's the crappy part about that. And I like to think they ended up together later in life, him being the attorney that he always wanted to be and her being the writer, and their relationship blossomed after that.
Because happy endings, right? Had you ever heard of kneeling on grits before reading this book? And what qualities did Lily have that allowed her to survive, endure, and eventually thrive despite T-Ray?
So I thought this was a strange figure of speech. I had not heard of it before. I do know what grits are, but I had never heard of kneeling on them. It's kind of weird. But it does point to Lily's perseverance and her resilience. She is one tough cookie. And I think that her stubborn will and resilience are really the only things that kept her moving forward throughout all of the different trials that she faced.
So, no, I had never heard of that, but I also had never heard of grits before until I was a lot older. I didn't even know that was a Southern thing to eat until I was probably in college when I went to New Orleans whenever I went to New Orleans for the first time, I believe is when I found out about grits. And I can't remember. And then it wasn't until college that I actually tasted grits for the first time. So I knew what grits were in the sense, but I guess I didn't realize that was a form of punishment for kneeling on grits. I don't even know what they look like without being cooked. So I'm assuming they're hard. I've kind of pictured them as like corn kernels, but maybe smaller, I'm assuming. But like I said, I don't even know what
smaller rice, like really ground up.
I don't know what they look like pre-cooked either. But anyways, I feel like I'm digressing there. So the love for her mom and their strength and perseverance lent her character being able to withstand we've considered him to be a shit father. Essentially, that's kind of why she endured what he had to do. Plus, I feel like I said Rosaleen being there. I feel like without Rosaleen, I think she would have broke, in which case she did it because of this. She at least had that one person that was kind of still loving up on her and, appreciating her.
So I guess I'll start with this one. So it wasn't a figure of speech. She literally had to put grits on the ground and kneel on them. And grits, when they're uncooked, you have to picture not like smooth rice or kernels. It'd be like tiny little, really sharp rocks that she'd have to kneel on. That's why she was something like her cutting it into her knees after a while when she stayed there. So yeah. I mean, I didn't know this was a thing, and it made me really mad that it happened because it's such a violent way to punish a child.
I'm assuming it's a Southern thing, right?
I don't even know if it was a real thing. I didn't look it up after reading it, but reading about him doing it to her really pissed me off. But like I said before, T-Ray was such a D-bag to her all of the time, and it became clear that, like Barbara said in the last question, that he's punishing her for the loss of her mother and the fact that she looks like her less than, for stuff that she's actually done. But Lily was a tough, strong kid, and I think that allowed her to survive and persevere through this. I think that Rosaleen played a part in that, like you guys said too. But I also think she came out of all this a stronger person, and I was very grateful that she, at the end of the novel, didn't have to go back and live with T-Ray, and she, at least as far as we know, escaped being with him for the rest of her life. Moving on from there, we got our last question, which is, why is it important that women come together? What did you think of the Calendar sisters and the Daughters of Mary? And how did being in the company of this circle of females transform Lily?
So I think it's important because we have to build each other up, not tear each other down. And it's just a different kind of friendship / companionship that is so important for women to have. Like, there was a time where society and the media portrayed women hating women and wanted us to always like be pitted against each other. So I really loved seeing this where that's not the case whatsoever. I loved how they were there for each other and celebrated their uniqueness and supported each other. It was just beautiful to read. She learned to love herself and rely on these strong women when she needed it, and then support them when they needed it. And I think every person needs that, regardless of sex. Like, regardless if you have that strong sense of friendship and companionship, regardless, like it helps you be a better person. So I love to see in this book, this is, once again, I'm going to keep harping on this. This is what strong female characters look like. They're all flawed. Yeah. They all have, even June with her issues and all that stuff that she has, she still taught valuable lessons to Lily, and her beautiful music playing, how she played for essentially dying people, like, in hospice. And that probably alleviated a lot of stress for them too, that because music is healing, music is beautiful. And so regardless, this is what I love to see. This is how you write female characters and women characters, Mr. Grady, or whatever the hell your crap name is for the crap book.
Grady, that was correct.
Ha.
So yeah, Lily never had a mother or female role model really in the book, except for Rosaleen. And now all of a sudden she's got a whole group of them. And it was really awesome to see the effect that not only that these women had on her, but the fact that she had on them too. I think that, we've talked a lot about the fact that like Lily's biases kind of faded away throughout the book, but we failed to mention that I think that these women had some biases against white women and white girls too, that also faded away a little bit because of their relationships with Lily. And so it was cool to see that go both ways. And I think that they both were able to grow in different ways because of each other. And it completely transformed Lily, and it really allowed her to come out of her shell and finally find herself. And it was really cool to see that. It was, I've read and watched a lot of coming of age stories, and this one was a very unique take on that. And it was very, very well done. And it was, the Calendar sisters and the daughters of Mary were vital in that coming of age for our main character.
I literally read Barbara's response and just typed, "Yes, queen." Because, yeah, this was a really, really well-written female characters, really well-written female relationships, just with, like you said, Barbara, supporting each other when, like, Lily needed it, and then Lily being able to support them when they needed it. Just, yes. Yes, yes.
That last scene when August obviously called all of them to kind of back them up when T-Ray was there, just in case he was going to cause a scene, like, melted my cold dead heart. It was so beautiful to see that they all showed up for her. And I think that's what Lily needed to see, is these women cared for her and were willing to stand up for T-Ray. Because back then, that's a huge, like, right now, like, that's still really cool. But if you were thinking back then, he is a white man. He could literally put them all in jail saying they stole his baby girl and all this crap, and no one would bat an eye and believe him for it. So I think that's just a testament of what that scene meant.
So let's get into our individual scoring now. Barbara, what did you think of this one?
Yep, 7.75 for me. Really, really enjoyed this book.
So 7.25 for me. I also enjoyed it. Lauren?
Michael, I'm never going to let you forget that you did a stupid decimal on this one.
I know.
Really stupid.
Is this the
decimal.
First time? At least in the third season?
It's the first time this season. It's not the first time ever.
I did 8. I gave it an 8. I really, really loved it.
I figured why you'd bring that up. Anyway, the group score for this one ended up being a 7.7 out of 10, so you can tell we really all enjoyed it.
Okay. Have feedback about today's episode? Contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. I know, it's a handful and a mouthful. I too think so when I say it. Anyways, you can also send us a DM or leave a comment on Instagram or Facebook. And I believe the handles Mike already repeated. It's at badasslitpod. Whatever, Instagram and Facebook.
Just at badasslitpod.
Yeah, there you go.
Make sure you're following or subscribed to Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating if it allows you to, and leave us a review. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. One more time, our handle there is at BadassLitPod on Instagram and Facebook. And with that, we will see you next month for a bonus episode
Just bonus. No.
Just bonus. And then we'll be
Yes.
back the following month with the full
We're
review from
taking a
Mistborn.
break. Some of us are going to be busy.
Yep.
Out of the country. Yay.
We'll see. We'll see you guys then. Bye.
You're Michael. I'm Barbara.
I'm Lauren. Bye.
Bye.